lucky to have my friend Sam Coronel here with us from Kino Flo. Take it away, Sam.
Oh, thank you. Hello, hi. I'd like to thank the Digital Cinema Society for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm Sam Coronel from Kino Flo Lighting Systems, and I'm going to touch base a little bit on image-based lighting, so I'll just get right into it. With the increased use of virtual reality production, we have the challenges of matching set lighting to the content of a volume or video walls. It's no longer just okay to get a general color temp to match, but how do you maintain a shifting color as the scene evolves into different lighting environments? Hence, image-based lighting, or IBL for short. Through the use of video processors and media servers, it has become possible to map an area of a volume and reproduce that color and lighting fixture in the lighting fixture. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about some of the color challenges we're dealing with and where IBL is taking us. Video walls are made up of RGB pixels. Please keep that in mind as we navigate through this presentation. With large volumes, it was possible to isolate a portion of the content and use it as a brighter synchronized illumination source. I'm referring to RGB video tiles. At best, we could hope for 2,000 nits. It became obvious that an RGB light did not illuminate the foreground subject accurately. Skin tones look reddish, and there were other color distortions. So why can a camera record a decent image from an RGB display, yet the light from that same panel doesn't illuminate the foreground accurately? It's all in the narrow spectrum of the VR wall. A camera with an RGB sensor can read an image correctly since the image is only comprised of RGB elements. In nature, the environment is made up of entire visible spectrum from 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers. For a camera to record the range of color fidelity and saturation, a full spectrum white light is required. If the light does not have the fullest spectrum, it cannot accurately reflect the color of the subject to the camera or to your eye for that matter. I'll explain a little bit more. We have a number of ways to look at color spectrums. The TM30 chart to the left and the spectral distribution chart on the right on the slide. The TM3020 uses 99 color references to illustrate spectral performance. The black line in the circular chart on the left illustrates the reference samples. The red line shows the deviation from the RGB source from the reference sources. As we can see, the deviation from the reference source is dramatic. The spectral chart on the right shows how narrow the bands of an RGB are and the total lack of spectrum between each color. If the color point of the subject falls between those spikes, it cannot be accurately reproduced because it doesn't have that information. You can see the improvement in color rendition the more broad spectrum white light you add. The RGB in a single white illustrated on the left show the reduction in deviation. The two white LEDs on the right show the vast improvement with very slight deviation. The broader a spectrum distribution, the better the cameras can reproduce the foreground colors on the VR wall. This slide dramatically showed why added white LEDs outperform a single white over the RGB. The two whites contain huge volume of spectrum, which will result in greater color fidelity on your foreground and your subjects. Same is true for daylight, 6500. At 6500 Kelvin, the RGB spectrum on the right, again, illustrates a limited spectrum that is emanating from the video wall. The deviation from the reference sources on the TM3020 chart on the left highlights the spectral deficiencies. In the single white on the left and the double white on the right underlines the improved color rendering that full spectrum white LEDs provide. Here again, we see the differences between the three options. The goal is to broaden the spectrum as much as possible and minimize the peaks and valleys of the curve. The 450 nanometer spike represents the blue exciter that activates the white phosphor. All of this leads me to the Kino Flo Mimic, which I have on the booth on to the right. The Mimic came about from a meeting at the AST Lighting Technology Subcommittee back in 2019. Lux Machina, who are a virtual production experts company, had made a presentation on their challenges of lighting foreground subjects in front of a video wall. Color fidelity and pixel mapping and lighting instruments was important. That is when we decided as a company to take Kino Flo into an entirely new direction. We thought, why not make a video tile that embodied our core color science, and instead of pixel zones, let's go with individual pixels, 7,200 of them. We used our RGB plus 2 white LEDs, one 2700 Kelvin, one 6500 Kelvin. By operating at 30 kilohertz, we can shoot up to 900 frames per second. Each 2x4 panel can be interlocked to create larger sources. The lightweight carbon fiber construction makes rigging easier. At 400 watts per fixture, we can achieve 10,000 nits. To understand what that represents, a midday sky on a clear day is 8,000 nits. So we're talking in terms of intensity. Since the light operates on a processor, it opens the ability to synchronize to a wall and a camera. In other words, gen lock. This becomes critical when matching images to a lighting effect. Any latency would potentially reveal itself as poor effects shot. The Mimic can also synchronize to a subframe level. I'll talk more about that in a minute. So where's all this taking us to? The advent of the Mimic illustrates how we can go beyond the DMX light control. Embracing gaming technology has allowed us to utilize images as the color source. Video processors harmonizing with technologies such as Assimilate can provide advanced mapping and color controls. The traditional lighting desk can handle control assignments from the video processor. Alpha channels is a technology that can divide a single frame into 30 slices or subframes at 30 frames per second. So meaning you can shoot different videos from one video content at the same time. All which you can be synchronized to the content or camera. This ability to synchronize with the background, be it VR or green screen, will increasingly become a necessity. Ghost frame and camera mode from Megapixel and frame remapping from Brompton all enable multiple content to be displayed simultaneously on the video wall. Those subframes, the content for each camera can independently track as well as lit. The lights will have to be able to sync directly to the subframe in order to gen lock. This subject is worthy of a 1 hour conversation by itself, so it's better to look it up online. So, in conclusion, all these innovations come with certain caveats. Our traditional production planning model must reflect the reality of VR production requirements. This means planning for VR content well in advance of principal photography. It is highly recommended to have a visual effects supervisor on board and in pre-production to ensure the VR assets follow predetermined color workflows and formats. You need to determine whether gen lock is important or reflections of the content desired on your subject material. What content is desired on subject material? What is the best choice of lighting instruments for the effect you are looking for? I believe we're all scratching the surface of where these new technologies are leading us. So hang on, it's going to be an exciting ride. And that's all I have. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sam. Do we have any questions for Sam? Yes, sir.
So the individual panels can also be grouped together to make that bigger?
The
Yeah,
virtual panels
yeah.
can be grouped together.
That's true. So they're 2 by 4 feet, but you could make arrays of whatever side wall you want to make. You can make 2 by 8 foot, 4 by 4 foot, 8 by 8, 12 by 12 by interlocking the panels themselves. Yeah.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Sam.